Hi guys, it's Miranda Himmels back again, and I'm with True North Handcrafted, and I make these videos for Pressing Images, Tumblers, Wholesale Tumblers, and Sublimation Blanks Facebook group. And so I make them every other week, and then I upload them also to my YouTube channel. So if you're joining me there, feel free to hit subscribe, and I do these every other Monday as I'm able to do them. So today I am making an oil filter cup. A lot of you have seen these with the cat oil filters. I'm not doing that. My son is a mechanic for just your regular cars and trucks, not anything fancy. So I'm doing a Fram oil filter. I have painted this just with Rustoleum 2x orange, and it's pretty close actually to the Fram orange. And I will paint the top part of this black after I add my water slide to it, because if you take a Fram oil filter, or at least the particular one that I have a label for, out of the package, it has black rubberized kind of coating on the top of it. So I will do that. I was thinking about putting the oil filter bottom on this one, but I'm not going to do that, so because I can't find a clean enough image for what I want to do. I've painted this with the 2x orange Rustoleum, and then I painted over top of it with clear gloss just to give it a bit more shine because of the water slide. So I don't want it to appear too dull and cloudy, so I've added some gloss to it. So what I'm going to do is I've started off with a lukewarm tub of water that's big enough for my water slide. My water slide I've printed off. This actually came with the orange background, and so I've removed the orange background from most of it. It's around some of the smaller letters, but that's going to just blend right into the orange of the cup. And so what I do to do my water slides is I print them off. Robin sells the best water slides. They're awesome. To seal my water slides, this is inkjet, I lay it down on a turntable in my spray paint booth, and I do clear gloss side to side this way for one coat, let it sit for half an hour or more, and then I turn it and I do one coat diagonally. This helps you to get your spray paint sealed on every angle, and then I turn it again and go up and down. So I have 3 coats of the 3x or 2x Rustoleum clear gloss on here because you want it to be shiny. So I am going to submerge this in my water, and it doesn't take very long, but you want your edges all to be underneath the water so that it will release from there. And I'm just going to let that soak. And this is one of Robin's screw lid 20-ounce straight skinnies. When you're doing a full wrap like this, a skinny is a much better, a straight skinny is a much better option than a regular skinny. Although a regular skinny, in my opinion, looks a little more elegant with just that slight taper. These are much easier to wrap because they're straight, so you don't have to worry about warping and whatnot. So we're going to get this is not going to be a very long video here, but I'm just going to keep this soaked. You don't even need, if you have smaller water slides to do, you don't need to soak them. You just need to put them on top of a wet face cloth and it'll release. So this is, it slides away. Once the backing starts to slide, you're ready to go. So I'm going to get my lint-free cloth. You can get these at Costco, really cheap, and you get a lot of them, and they're lint-free, so they're really good for this kind of an application. And these silicone makeup brushes I can't imagine putting makeup on with them, but they're great for this kind of an application. So I am going to just get started here. I'm going to get my cup in here so it gets nice and wet. Everything needs to be nice and wet, and then you need to get the water out. So this is the top, and this is the top. We're going to just joined a little bit right there. Okay. Just making sure it's floating freely. The beautiful thing about this is because most of my design is all clear, it doesn't really matter. I'm not as fussy about how it goes on, but I do want my top part to be painted black, so I need to be aware of the amount of space I'm leaving here so that I can just paint over that with a little bit of black acrylic paint. So you want to keep everything nice and wet while you're doing this, and you just kind of pull out, you smoothen this down, making sure it's sitting straight. The hardest part is starting so that it's nice and straight and even, and then you can just go from there because it'll just totally unwrap. Don't take the backing off until you're ready. And I'm not worried about the stuff that's hanging off the edge here because I can just cut it off. I just want this to be as straight as I can get it. So I'm looking from the edge up to here, and how it looks for the spacing here. And right now I'm just smoothing this with my fingers, keeping things nice and wet. And the paper's just kind of sliding off as I'm going here, so if you need to adjust it, you've got lots of time to do that. Make sure I'm getting hair trapped in there, because that's a bad thing. You can see anything that the orange lettering, or the orange around the smaller lettering, is completely disappearing behind the water slide because of the orange background. Make sure that this edge is okay. I'm going to cut that part off. I don't know if I'm losing a little bit of my paint, but it's a little... grab some scissors. Just so I don't have all this extra to deal with here. I'm just going to cut it right here. This edge will completely disappear. It's not a big deal. Or it should anyway. Yeah. I just want a nice clean cut if possible and keep everything nice and wet. And don't do that. I am going to mess this up with a little bit of alcohol ink. So it's If I lose a little bit of detail in there, that's okay, because I'm going to just use an oil spot for right there. And just like that. Oops, I'm getting my towel all wet. Move this out of my way. So you just take it and wipe it gently. With your lint-free cloth. Smooth out any bubbles that might be underneath. This is a problem. That's clearly a spot where I'm going to need to put an oil drip. I already needed to do that in that spot because my water slide smudged a bit. I keep pulling on that, and that's just such a bad thing. Once you just smooth it, just keep smoothing it out. And make sure that you don't have any water underneath or bubbles. If you find you have a bit of an issue, you can always wet your makeup brush and try and smooth it out that way. Once water slide is stuck, it is stuck. So you want to be careful. Like I've put water slide on a ceramic mug and just let it sit for a few days, and 2.5 years later it is still there, looks just exactly the same. All right, so I'm going to take my craft knife and I'm just going to very carefully, because this is all clear, so it doesn't really matter, but I'm just going to carefully roll the cup and cut off this excess water slide at the bottom here. Because it's not doing anything for the cup and it's just in my way. I'm being very careful of this spot that I have a problem. No. That all pulled off. Without all of the bubbles. And again, with me distressing this to make it look like a used oil filter, any of my imperfections will be disguised in that, because you know, things happen. I'm just adding a little bit of water to this to give it a little bit more play, to be careful of that A over there. All right, so I think I'm ready just to let this sit and dry, and then I can add my black acrylic paint around the top and my alcohol inks, because oil doesn't come out looking like black acrylic paint. It comes out kind of brown and transparent, so unless you have really dirty oil. So we'll come back to next steps, but it looks not bad for a Fram oil filter. So I am excited to give this to my mechanic son, because I think that he will love it. So I'll come back for next steps. Okay, so my water slide is all dry, so it's looking very much like an oil filter. So I'm going to now paint the top black. Should have probably drawn this out a little bit so that I know what I'm doing here, but I'm just going to wing it. So I have a little bit of black acrylic paint and some water, and I've just got a sponge brush here. So I'm going to do my best to get this kind of straight all the way around. It is kind of a rubberized coating that's on the top of it, so that's why I'm using the sponge brush, so I can get the little edge like that. Because if you, I went to the store, I don't usually look at these things, but I went to the store and pulled out an oil filter and took a look at it before I started it, and that's kind of the way it looks. So that's why I've made this decision to do this like this. So I'm not painting it, I'm just kind of dabbing it on. So this texture is probably going to mostly disappear when I put epoxy over it, but it is there for now, and you can see it along the edges, so that part will stay. And it's going to cover up any inconsistencies in my water slide edge. I'm just doing it as evenly as I possibly can, all the way around. Like I said, it probably would have helped if I would have drawn a pencil line around it, but what's the fun of that when you can just wing it? Okay, well, I think that looks pretty good. Dab a little bit more in. So bring it down just a little bit more. I did purchase the label from Etsy. I think his name was Jason that I purchased it from. I wanted a nice clean image to use, so I could do a clean version of this if I wanted to. And it was orange, so I had to take out the color to do it this way. Which is an easy thing to do, so. All right, so I think that I've got a pretty good layer of the black, and it's looking kind of textured right now because of the way I applied it, but that's probably going to disappear under the epoxy because epoxy has a way of doing that, but you can see the jagged edge, and that's basically the way it looks when it's on the actual oil filter that I saw. So trying to do as realistic as I possibly can. So now I'm going to take, I'm not sure if I want this paintbrush or if I want something else. Okay, I have, because car oil filters, the oil is kind of brownish. It's more black when you're dealing with one of the cat filters or whatever, the industrial ones. So I'm going to use brown alcohol inks. I have here some teakwood and some caramel and ginger, and we'll just see how that looks. And I'm gonna I need to get some rounded brushes, so I'm gonna put some ink into the bristles of my paintbrush and kind of just do one of these. I don't want to actually see my brush strokes. I want it to look more like an oil spill. I'm going to maybe do a drip and let it run down the cup like that. I'm thinking that's a little darker than I want it to be. Let me try the ginger. Yeah, ginger's a better color. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to put a couple of drops in my bristles of my brush. I'm going to lay this down, and I'm going to try and do a flick situation and get some splatters. And messed up my black paint because it's not dry yet. So I'll have to go back and fix that. I don't want to get this too messy because, you know, I'd like to actually be able to see what this is. Put a couple of drips here and there, some splatters. I find doing a drip and run situation a little bit more natural than the way that I've seen it with the brushes. Because that's what's going to happen when it's oil. Okay, I want to fix these spots right here. Because I'm just too impatient. Okay, I kind of like the way that is looking, although I want a little more stuff going on up here. Well, it's just that easy to flick alcohol ink. You just put it in your brush and tap it down. Okay, now I don't want to mess up the bottom too much because that's where my sticker is going to go, but I want to make a couple of fingerprints. And I'm going to do this with my gloves because, you know, the first thing I'm going to do is mess up my manicure hugely. So I'm going to put it on my thumb and on a couple of fingers and grab it like that so that there's some fingerprints. From grabbing it and turning it off. So there we have a messed up version of an oil filter. I think it looks pretty awesome. I hope my son loves it because he's the mechanic, and it's just going to end up looking like this anyway because, you know, he takes his cups to work and makes a mess out of them. So there's that. So I will let this sit and dry fully because some of these drips may not have fully evaporated yet. But I'm going to let this sit and dry, and then I'm going to seal over the whole thing with a layer of Mod Podge because I find that that prevents any shifting, blurring, or color changing with alcohol inks if you do that. So I'm going to seal it with a layer of Mod Podge, and it'll help to seal in the water slide as well. And then I'm going to epoxy it. So that is my oil filter cup. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I've never done one before, but it looks pretty good to me. So we'll talk to you soon.